Hey everyone, I'm Mara Webster with In Creative Company, and thank you so much for tuning into one of our talks today. We are a year-round talk series bringing the best creative voices across film, television, and theatre. And today I'm so thrilled to be joined by Pippa Bennett-Warner, who is popping up in everything on your screens right now, from the latest season of Harlots to Maxxx, also on Hulu, the upcoming show Roadkill and Gangs of London. And I wanted to start by diving in and talking about Roadkill, because I know that one of the things that attracted you to that as a project was obviously David Hare's incredible writing. And just wanted to kind of ask you about what it was so specifically about his writing on this show, and particularly with the character that you play in it that was so alluring in that way.
Well, I think that there's something about his writing that makes it's like, think about a really juicy steak. That is David Hare's writing, and also the women in this piece were so strong. But it was the fact that every scene that my character was in, and actually every scene that every other character was in, I just felt that you got a real opportunity to really have a good go. Does that make sense? Because sometimes in telly you don't. Sometimes the scripts aren't that fruity, they're not that juicy. But this one was, and I just thought, wow, it was a complete no-brainer. And I loved the character. I thought she was so cool and really kick-ass and intelligent and brilliant, but but also at the core quite vulnerable. So it was like a mixture of things. But it was, yeah, David's writing is just,
yeah. No, you're absolutely right. And like the strength that she holds within herself, both kind of like professionally and clearly personally as well, like that it's just an all-encompassing part of her is one of the really interesting aspects to watch. And then the way that she goes on, where that veneer kind of gradually chips away a little bit in what we see. And so I wanted to ask you a little bit about how you kind of took the script and took the character and constructed that journey so that you could play it in such like a believable, gradual way throughout the episodes.
I think it was all there. It was all there in the script, but I guess because she goes on this journey of morality, I guess, and wanting to do, she wants to do the right thing, but she also wants to win, and all she knows is winning, and then she's faced with this information given to her by Margaret, and she goes, well, I want to win, but I also know that I have to do the right thing. And I think it was in the piece, it was in the text, and I just went with it. And then I decided that I wasn't going to let her, I was going to give her one moment of vulnerability, and there's one moment where you can visually see that there's something inside. She's not hollow, and that she's actually a real human being. And it's in my final scene in episode 4 when Danny says, Danny Ashok, he plays Luke, says to her that, yeah, we all know that you're going to be the first QC, but we didn't know that was the only thing that you cared about. And I allowed myself to give her one moment of, and then she puts the mask back on, because that's what she's used to. That's what she's trained to do. She's trained to be this super professional, super competent, legal person. And so I think it was trying to keep her human, but also fundamentally trying to keep the steel running through her as well as the humanness.
And I wanted to ask you about the way that you and Danny worked together on constructing that relationship, because, the scenes that you have are kind of like very quick and usually in a professional setting, but the amount of depth that you both managed to bring to kind of like what their relationship is and what their dynamic is so fascinating to watch in every moment. And so I was interested in how the two of you worked to craft that out together.
Well, we got really lucky because we got on really well. And I think with something like that, where you're in, because Michael Keeler, our brilliant director, basically said that those scenes in the chambers are like, being in the courtroom, and it's supposed to be, that it's like playing a game of tennis. And Danny is such a brilliant actor, and we just clicked. And in between those 5-page scenes, in between setups, we were giggling and laughing and having a really nice time. And then we were like, actually, we've got a job to do. And then we would just do it. But it was we were lucky because we got on. And I think when you have a scene partner where you're relying on each other to bring alive 5 pages of quite dense dialogue, it's a bonus if you get on, because you can feel the chemistry.
And when you're playing a character like this, obviously she's incredibly richly written, but there's still a lot of details about her life which aren't part of the narrative arc and don't come into the story. And for yourself and your process, is it useful to kind of sit there and develop lots of the elements behind it? Kind of like, how much backstory do you like to create beyond what you have in the script pages?
I do like to go back and I do at drama school. It's one of the things that we would taught that you make lists about what people say about you, what you say about yourself, where you come from before each scene, where you've gone to, where you're going to after the scene. So I did stuff like that, but I had such a quick turnaround between I think it was Maxxx and this, that I couldn't do as much prep as I wanted to, if I'm being really honest, because I think I had 2 days. So I had to just jump in and just do it, and then rely on David's script, which was great because everything was there.
Mm-hmm. And I wanted to ask you a little bit about working on Maxxx, because you were saying how you hadn't necessarily worked on such a straight comedy up until that point. And so I was interested in what the really unique aspects and challenges of stepping into such a comedic setting were for you.
Oh my God, just trying not to laugh, Mara. I mean, it was difficult because Oti's absolutely hilarious. Chris Maloney is like ridiculously funny. Helen Monks is ridiculous. John, I mean, it was like, it was really like working with comedic geniuses, and then I was sort of stuck with them and trying to, be funny. But it was difficult because it requires a different skill, and it's you can't apply the, well, you can actually, but it's beats, it's timing, it's things like that. And I remember Oti being like, you're not following through to the end of the line, the joke is at the end of the line, I need you to follow through to the end. And I was like, okay, great, that's it, that's where and then you just, so as soon as you kind of know the mechanics of comedy and the mechanics of how to make a joke land, I was kind of okay. But it was quite difficult. It was quite difficult.
Are there even more specific mechanics with the fact that your character essentially is kind of the straight man in amongst the middle of the absurdity as well? So I feel like there's a really unique challenge to landing comedy in that way, because you're almost not drawing attention to the fact that you're delivering a line and delivering a joke.
Exactly. And the straight man it's great because you can hide behind the fact that you don't have to be funny, and takes the pressure off. But also you can also be funny because you're being the straight man. So it was, I mean, I remember filming and I was like, oh God, I'm the straight man. But that's cool, actually. And I was like, oh, I feel comfortable because this kind of feels like Drama World, and Drama World is where I feel most comfortable. So I was like, okay. And then, they started making Tamsin do ridiculous things, like doing the rap off and things, and I said, oh God. But really, really good fun, and very different to what I normally do. So it was really, I had a really good time.
Mm-hmm. And then I also wanted to dive into talking about Gangs of London a little bit, which is just, I love Gareth Evans and the tone that he brings, and kind of in a different way. That was the first time that you were stepping into a world that had a lot of action sequences, and that was kind of the tone that was coming forth. And so I wanted to ask you about what the specific challenges were that came with that as the overall tone and approach of the show. I
think challenges in terms of, I hadn't done an action piece before, and I think, challenges, my role in the show, without giving anything away, is the romantic track throughout the show, the kind of, I don't want to say like the beating heart, because it's not, but it's the emotional side of the show. Yes, you've got the vibes, but then you've got this Romeo and Juliet type story running alongside the family drama and the revenge and Sean and everything. And so I think I felt that I needed to really serve that, if that makes sense, and really honor that, if that makes any sense, because I knew that the show would need that relationship to really work, for people to buy into it and for people to want to support that couple during 9 episodes of telly. So I think I just wanted to honor what Gareth had set up with these two characters, and Chope and I would talk about it all the time, be like, okay, we've got to make sure this relationship really reads, that you really buy it, that you really want these two people to be together. And yeah, that would be my thing.
Mm-hmm. And you and Chope had worked together previously as well. Mm-hmm. And so I wanted to ask a little bit about the construction of their relationship together, and the benefit of the fact that you already had that history. You knew how one another liked to work and what that collaboration was going to look like, and how ultimately that meant that you didn't have to kind of start by building the foundation, and whether it gave you more of an opportunity to just dive straight into developing richer layers and more nuanced aspects than you would always get the opportunity to do.
Yeah, I think that's it. Again, lucky that we'd worked together, and he's obviously just divine in every way, shape and form, and really easy to work with, very, very generous, one of the best scene partners I've had. And we worked on the scenes all the time, that we didn't feel that something quite worked. The good thing about Gangs actually is that it was really collaborative from the moment we started. So we would do we'd have, before each block, we'd shoot 2 episodes at a time. We would have rehearsals with the producers and the writers and the directors, and if there was anything that the cast didn't feel quite worked, it would be discussed and things might be changed. And I hadn't worked on a show where you had that much, as much collaboration as that, and as much freedom as an actor as that, and Shoppe and I would take that into our days, and we'd work together, and if something didn't quite work, we'd take it to Gareth, or we'd take it to Zav, or we'd take it to Corin, and it would be fixed. And it was so, it was honest, it was a delightful 9 months, and it was made sweeter by the fact that all my scenes pretty much were with Shoppe, and that we had a really good relationship.
Mm-hmm. And you were mentioning before how with Roadkill, because it was such a short process beforehand, that you didn't really have the opportunity to do that character deconstruction. Mm-hmm. And so wanted to kind of ask you a little bit about what that actually looked like for this series, and kind of how much you wanted to dive into, especially knowing that you were going to have those really in-depth rehearsals, and how much character development you brought to the table even before you walked into the first rehearsal.
So again, luckily, which seems to be the word of the chat, is that Lucien, Papa, and Tay, who played my immediate family, so my dad, my brother, and my son, we'd all worked together before. So Tay, I'd just done a film with, and he came and did Gangs and played Danny. And then Papa, I'd played his sister 3 times, and Lucien, I'd played his niece. So we had this already existing little unit, if you like. And then when we got into rehearsals, of course, that developed, and we started talking about backstories and our mom and everything. But it was just, we lucked out that we already knew each other, and it makes such a difference, because like you said, you can skip all of the pleasantries, and I'm so used to at this point playing Papa's sister, so it's just that's just a part of the dynamic of our relationship, that I'm like his annoying big sister. Do you know what I mean? So so we could go straight to delving into the text and delving into the Dumanis, as opposed to going one by one and going, oh, what's this, and what, we were already there, which was great. And Kelly Hendry, who cast it, did did us all a favor.
What did the journey look like in terms of just really thinking about what growing up in that sort of environment would have been like, what sort of emotional shields she would have needed to develop, even just the fact that she's kind of always prepared to need to bolt at any moment, and just kind of like really discovering what those emotional and mental aspects would need to be for her as a character.
Well, I think with Shannon she's fierce, and she's opinionated, and she's loyal, and she's a bit of a lioness, but I also think she's quite guarded, and I think she's had to be quite guarded. And I always describe her as the quintessential gangster's daughter, and she sits in her ivory tower and she does as she's told, and she does to a point, and we see that in the show. But I think growing up in that environment, there has to be a certain amount of you put the shutters up, you turn a blind eye, you see what you want to see, you don't see what you don't want to see. And you can kind of feel that in the writing of her, in as we get to know her more, that she's defensive. And especially in that final scene with Vicky before she killed her, she's quick, she's thinking, because I think you react, and going and getting the gun and having the gun, and it's that the brilliance of Shannon, I think, is where we start and where we end with her. And because where we end with her makes us think back to who she was when she started, and all the stuff that she said. Is it true? Is it not true? So I thought that was really genius of the writers to give her that arc. When I read that in episode 9, I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. This is amazing.
Were there research aspects, and whether it was books or other movies that have a similar approach in terms of the stories that they're telling, that were really useful tools to you in terms of just understanding that world further?
Yes and no. I mean, I think I have always thought about gangs that, especially British gangs, for some reason, that everything was, very fancy and very glitzy and in your face. And I don't know if that's because of popular culture or whatever, but I'd always just thought that their lives were super, super glamorous, and you could kind of guess a gangster on the street. And so when we started seeing pictures of locations and seeing where these characters lived and how they were going to be dressed, it was really interesting to have to switch your brain, because I thought, God, every stereotype, I guess, of gangsters is that I thought, you know, chains and marble floors and, you know, big shiny chandelier, you know, we didn't have. We had a really very big but quite modest townhouse in Richmond, and you know, wearing quite ordinary clothes, you know, things like that. So I had to kind of remove all the stuff that I thought gangsters were, and just start at a really neutral place, so that these are just people, and they just happen to be running London, you know. So yeah, yes and no. And then again, just building the family and making, because I think at the show that what makes it really work as well is that you've got these two families, and you know, family, and especially, you know, Irish and Black, you know, we're all about families, and you can really feel that at the center of the show, which I think is really good.
Yeah. And how useful was that to you in terms of just thinking about your character in specific scenes, just knowing that there is that kind of like that family loyalty is such a central theme to not just the entire show, but especially your character. And so did it kind of help you a lot in just knowing exactly what her choices and responses to situations and scenes would be?
Oh my God, totally. Yeah, totally. Yeah, because it informs everything. It informs the dialogue, it informs the way you hold yourself, it informs the way you would hug your brother, the way you would kiss your father. That really helped, remembering that family and loyalty are the things that drive her. Really, really, really helped, and actually made the latter end of her journey quite difficult, because she's, you know, who does she pick?
Yeah. One of the things I love anytime Gareth is involved in a project is just like the meticulous specificity of the camera work. And with this show, especially, it's like, you know, he knows exactly when it needs to kind of like move around and be in the center of the action, and when it needs to just really sit and let its characters breathe. And was interested in kind of like how that impacts you in terms of like what that looked like in terms of just like the choreography and the movement within scenes based on what his camera choices were.
He's a real genius, isn't he? I mean, he's so good. Some of those fight scenes took 5 days to shoot, and he knew exactly where, like you just said, where the camera was going, where the punch was going. Like, it was all filmed. It was like watching an artist paint a canvas. It was really extraordinary. And some of those, I mean, my first day was the funeral in episode 1, and I think we had 200 supporting artists and so many cast. I think there are 110 cast members in the show or something. So we had a lot of cast as well, and just seeing how they were shooting outside, like just everything was just so brilliant and so specific. And that's the brilliance of it, because it reads, you know, that specificity, and it's Gareth's touch, isn't it? It's just, he just has this, the stuff he makes is so watchable.
Yeah. And in terms of even just like the journey that your character goes on, and kind of like as audience members, what we know and understand about her at the beginning compared to the end is such a fascinating element. And I wanted to ask you about whether that's something that plays in your mind if you're thinking about how much information do I want to give the audience. Obviously, you know all of that up front, and you know that that's part of her core identity. But did you think at all about like how much you wanted to let us in on that, and like the way that you wanted to pepper it in smaller details?
Yes, I did. I mean, I think the great thing about it is that at the beginning she's written, you know, she's the gangster's daughter, but she's written quite wholesomely and quite sweet and ordinary and, you know, kind and a bit, you know, kind of fruity, but not too much. And then, so I decided that I just wanted to keep it, I wanted the scene episode 9 to really have the payoff that it deserved. So I just kept it quite simple and quite ordinary and likable. And then by the end, towards it's episode 9, episode 8 into 9, she starts to really, and that's the geniusness of it, because you just don't see it coming. I've had so many friends be like, "Oh my God, Shannon!"
Like you knew exactly when they watched that episode.
I'm like, I know, guys, she's a badass. Yeah.
And you were also filming the 3rd season of Harlots at the same time, and jumping back and forth between productions, which I can't think of 2 more wildly different characters that you could have to dive between. And I was curious about kind of how that impacted the way that you needed to prepare for each of these characters. Obviously, you had the benefit with Harlots of having already kind of lived and breathed in her and knowing a little bit more walking into scenes what that would look like. But kind of what sort of preparation did you have to do just to kind of like mentally be able to pivot between the two of them so quickly when you needed to back and forth?
I had to be really strict, and I remember just being really, really tired because I would do one or 2 days on Gangs, and then I'd go and do 3 days on Harlots, and it would be like that for 6 months. And I remember saying to myself, okay, when you get back to your trailer and you take off Shannon's costume or you take off Harriet's, that's it. You have to literally shut the door and get ready for the next day working on Shannon or working on Harriet, because you don't have the time for there to be any residue the next day on some, or thinking about, sometimes you get home after shooting a scene and you go, oh, that's how I should have done it, and I had to stop myself from getting caught up in the previous day's work because I had to be completely focused. And you're right, it was ideal that I had already 2 years of playing Harriet, so I knew who she was, or I'd already created her. So starting Shannon from scratch I could invest a bit more time. And if I was creating them both at the same time, God knows what would have happened. I probably would have gone to Gangs speaking with an American accent, or I would have gone to Harlots sounding like Shannon. I don't know, but I think I had to be quite strict, and just as soon as the clothes came off, that was the end of the day, and I went on to the other job.
Yeah. I feel like because you just mentioned clothes, and one of the things that's so striking about Harlots is obviously the visual aspects of it, with the production design, with the costumes. Yeah. And in terms of like when you're developing a character and crafting them out, how vital are elements like that in terms of just like figuring out some of the details, and once you stepped into the physical world of Harlots and kind of like put those costumes on, were there things that you uncovered about her as a character that you maybe hadn't anticipated previously?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I always start with shoes. I always like to put the shoes on first, because I feel once you're in the character's shoes, you can embody their physicality, you can all those kinds of things. So yes, I mean, I think, the thing about, Harriet's clothes got better as the seasons went on, as she went up in status. And those clothes are just, those dresses are just absolutely extraordinary. You put them on and you're instantly in the 17th century, because there's no way that you can't be, because you've been put, it's taken 40 minutes to put on, you're in this beautiful silk dress or whatever. So you do feel that's the beauty about costume, and that's the beauty about, I guess, the different departments on a set and on stage as well, that you all come together to create something, and you're all on the same page. And when makeup comes together with costume and comes together with the actor, and it all, and you see that and you go, oh yeah, that's the character, and you instantly feel like that person. And it's sometimes we would rehearse in tracksuit bottoms and warm coats, because we were before we because they'd have to stagger us for our hair and makeup, because there are so many of us. And even just doing the scenes without in like an Adidas tracksuit bottom, you couldn't. And then as soon as you put the clothes on, you just it's so interesting how clothes can really help with your characterization.
Mm-hmm. And you were touching a little bit earlier on your time at drama school and studied at RADA, and you've mentioned before how like that was a really vital aspect to you, that training was something that was very important, that you really wanted to be part of your path as an actor. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about the way in which that was something that was so important to you, that you really wanted to gravitate towards, and if there's kind of any things that you really picked up from that time that just constantly sit at the back of your head whenever you're jumping into a new project or a new character.
I think with I'm quite big on education. I feel like once you've education is something that no one can take away from you. And I think that once you do it, especially with drama school, because I worked a little bit before going to drama school, and my parents were always like, no, you've got to go and get your BA in acting. And I was like, okay, guys. And I'm so pleased I did, because you come away with this little box of tools that you can constantly refer to. And it's something that, like I said, like before I start every job, I do my lists, which is a drama school thing. And it really helps, because instead of, rushing through, and you just get to kind of go, okay, this is this is that. And you just map out your part. And I'm I have been known to kind of sleep with a script on the other pillow, because you can get so absorbed into it, and that rather they really teach you to really break everything down and really, go to the depths of the character that you need to go to. And yeah, I wouldn't take back the 3 years. I'm really grateful that I got the chance to go. And when younger actors ask me for advice about acting, I always say drama school. And I never thought that I would say that, actually, but I always go drama school, because once you've done it, and you can always refer back to it.
Yeah, I also loved something that you were talking about recently in terms of just like at this point in your career with the projects that you've got under your belt, just feeling very confident in knowing what your strengths are as a performer, and wanted to ask what you feel those strengths are, and how that really helps and informs the way that you continue to choose projects at this point.
I mean, I've got pretty good at going, that's not for me, someone else can do it a lot better than me, I'll pass type thing. And there was a time when I'd been doing stage for quite a while, then I jumped into doing a bit of telly, and then I kept getting urban London girl roles, and I was like, I'm not very good at this. Like, I'm just not very good. I'm not very good. So I went and did a play at the National where I got to prance around in a period costume and, spoke with an RP voice. And I just needed that break, because I knew that I wasn't being that good at being this London urban girl, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, I think I just, it's funny because I never know what I want to do next. I never know until it comes into the inbox. I'm quite zen about all of that stuff. But yeah, I think knowing what job to take next always, I don't know. I'm a bit funny about stuff. I'm a bit funny because I never really know, Mara. I'm just like, yeah, okay, let's do that then. I don't know. I haven't answered that properly, I'm aware, sorry.
No, you have, and I really can't wait to see kind of like what lands in your inbox next that you end up jumping into, because I feel like as an audience member getting to watch the plethora of work that you do, it's just like, it seems like such an embarrassment of riches. So I have no doubt that it will be something unexpected and brilliant. And thank you so much for diving into so many of your projects and your process with us this afternoon.
Oh, thank you for having me. I've had such a lovely time.